Hi, Crow. Is it this one? Yeah. Hi, Crow. Hello. How are you? You. You. Aww. You. Where are we going? Huh? Where are we going? Do you know? You gonna stand there? You gonna make biscuits? Biscuits? You. No. Then what? Hmm? Oh. Oh, my bot is not running. 1 second. There it is. Oh. Ah, haha. Whoa, what happened there? Oh, right, of course. Because yeah, closes down the camera and then resurrects it. Okay. So there's a kitty cat here. You cannot see it currently. But believe you me, the kitty cat does exist. Alright. So, today marks the end of an era. I finally closed down the workshop that I opened in April-ish, I think. In Bishopbriggs, which is like, oh gosh, 7 kilometers northeast of here. And every time I had to go up there, I cycled up there, which I guess was good for my health. But Jesus Christ, it's annoying. There are train lines, and I even took an Uber once, but most of the time, yeah, I jumped on my bike and went up there. And whenever it's a workshop, so I tried ordering as many things up there as possible, but the delivery services just couldn't find it because they're a bunch of, I don't know, knobheads. So most of the time I had stuff delivered here and then carried them upstairs, put them in a big rucksack and cycled up there with that. I even ordered a bike cargo kit to strap behind my bicycle um to lob up there, which I used again today. But anyway, so I built a workshop up there, and you may have seen the workshop in the 10K charity run video, because all of those scenes were filmed in there with very rudimentary. Well, not all of the scenes, like 2 or 3 were filmed here. One of them was literally here, running from right to left or left to right. I don't remember. Might have been, no, it's not the why we're shooting the same scene twice. That was in the upstairs office in the workshop. I don't quite remember. Anyway, so what was I saying? Right, so I started this workshop in round about April. I think that's when the lease officially started. I had this idea that I went pregnant with for about 5 to 10 years now. And the furthest I've gotten in the last half year was prototyping. The thing is that I now have a job, and therefore I cannot take enough time to actually go up there once a day. Back when I didn't have a job, I went up there every day and did things, worked on things, ordered things, got processions done. And the biggest problem was ventilation. Making sure that you're safely doing chemical reactions, even if it's as simple as resin curing, that was just really difficult. And that's what took most of the time. I got a compressor, I got a pressure pot, I was going to get a vacuum pump, but I don't think I actually would have needed that. I probably would have needed that if the prototypes had come out poorly. But I also did a lot of programming to make sure that the prototypes worked right. I learned a lot about CAD, and I still don't know enough to continue the project. I'm very thankful that the software I was using had a Python interface. That surely helped. But anyway, I still don't have the rights to the IP, which is why I can't tell you exactly what I was doing. Some people already know, they've signed an NDA, and then they've helped me greatly. For example, Pete from the later levels. But yeah, in June, I got a grant from the city of Glasgow to make prototypes for £1,500. I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm going to have to reject that grant because I never had prototype production spendings that exceeded £1,500. And my business associate said, well, not business associate, my business consultant said that I need to spend all £1,500 on prototyping or nothing, or I won't get it. And so I sent her a lot of the bills and everything. And she said she'll see what she can do, but she can't promise anything. There's a good chance that I just won't get the grant, and we'll just have to live with the deficit. I mean, the deficit in total is a lot higher, right? So I took £20,000 of my own money and tried to make something because I was out of a job for, at that point, almost a year. Right? I quit my job in March 2024, which means my job ended in May 2024. And yeah, I got the workshop in April. Oh, so it was more than a year, right? But I had been doing preparations for 2 months at that point to start a new job, to actually start a company. Gosh, that is starting a company is so complicated. And I did it like 3 days too early because now I have to make a tax declaration for 3 days because it was like 3 days of the last financial year or something, and therefore I have to make tax returns for 3 days of doing nothing. Great. I probably have to give a lot of stuff back to the bank, like the card reader and everything that I was going to use. But at the end of the day, it's fine. I tried something and it didn't work, but I was dealing with so much stuff at the time, and it was during the AI bubble. So as a software developer, you don't easily find a job anyway if you're not like a senior dev or have like a super specific niche that you can fill. It's gonna be tricky to find a job as a software developer, especially like in Glasgow or in the Highlands. So yeah, I made the decision to take my own money and invest it into a company, into my own company, right? Not into just any company. And it's just a bit unfortunate that it's unfortunate that I actually found a job and therefore could no longer focus on this endeavor. If I ever get like a proper house with a garage, then I still have all the material. I still have the compressor, the ventilation system, the pressure pot. I still have all the materials. If I ever want to start that again, I will. And all I need is a proper space to work in, and I can't do it in this flat. There is no room that I can use for it that can use the ventilation that I can cordon off. Because of this little fella here, would be way too dangerous for Crow. Even though the fumes are technically safe, in the volumes that I would be producing them, it's still not something that I would want to risk. So yeah, I'll do that another time. In the meantime, I'm very happy with the place I'm currently working at, and they're very happy with me. So, no reason to do anything else but that at the moment. And if I ever move into a bigger house and get a garage, I might consider giving that a go again. But for now, that dream is dead. Which brings us to the, I guess, more interesting point, which is why the fuck am I wearing a suit? Right? It sounds like a rather sad occasion that I have to give up on that dream. But fuck that! The problem is that the company I was renting that workspace from, there were a bunch of cunts. And they were unable to fulfill the most simplest of requirements or requests that I had to them. They were unable to give me the dimensions of the place that I was renting, or even give me a clear definition of which room was part of what I was renting and which room was not, which makes it extremely difficult for me to claim insurance for things that would happen if things were to happen. Let's just not hope something happens, because something happened. But it was all resolved. But still, like, two of the company's associates, I asked them in person and an email twice, hey, can you confirm that this room, which is my office, is part of the lease? They said, we can't help you with that. And like, I think 4 months later, I was finally able to escalate some situations to a higher up. And then I asked that higher up, hey, by the way, just out of curiosity, could you confirm to me that the room is part of my lease? And she said, yes. In writing. Yeah, that room is part of your lease. Even if it's not marked in the license agreement, that is part of it. Yes, that is part of Unit 1. You are insured if you're insuring that office. Like, thanks. That would have been nice to know like 4 months ago. Anyway, and then I was like locked out of the main office building because they changed my ID number for the tap in keypad thingy. And then I called them and they said, nope, it was never changed. While I was standing in front of it and the code didn't work. They tried to gaslight me into thinking, no, it was always this code. Meanwhile, I had it on my phone. Like, I've been in and out there so many times. It was a mess. It was a hot mess dealing with those people. They only had their little booklet of what they can say and can't say. And if anyone ever asked a question that went beyond that, they just said, nope. Can't do that. Nope. We can't tell you what's part of your unit and what isn't. Nope. And it was infuriating every single time to talk to them about cleaning the yard. No, the yard is not part of the unit, and therefore, nothing we can do. It was like every single time I interacted with them, things that would be absolutely standard whenever you do any business interactions, they were absolutely incapable of dealing with it. And even simplest communication started to break down. And therefore, I'm very happy that this is over. So on, gosh, when did that start? It was about a month ago. I finally got back in there because I finally had the time to go back in there. And I noticed that 2 ceiling tiles had fallen from the ceiling onto the ground. One onto the stairs and one onto the chair I would be sitting in. Actually, let me bring up the pictures because it's quite jarring. 1 second. Teams. Oh, come on. Why did I not have to enter a password there? That's suspicious. Can I? Oh, come on. There we go. Download. Download. Come on. Download. Download. There we go. So I came back in and I saw this ceiling tile was missing. Oops. Yeah, there. And it had slammed down onto the chair that I used to sit in. And there was another ceiling tile missing in the ceiling that just slammed down onto the stairs. And yeah. I don't know how I would feel if I had sat in that chair as it happened. But that sure gave me enough reason to just quit it right then and there. So I rented a car, a minivan, loaded almost all of the stuff from that unit into that minivan, drove it here, and it's now like clogging up every square inch of this apartment. But I'm just very happy that it's gone. And then I told them, hey, that apartment, that your workshop almost killed me. I'd like to exit as by the terms of my lease. And that was, to be fair, the main reason I chose that company, is that I was allowed to quit on a monthly notice. And so November is going to be the last month that I will be paying rent there. So I got all of the material out of there. I was it on Thursday? No, it was on Wednesday, I think. I had to drive up there and, well, drive. I went by train actually, and went through the entire thing with them to see that I didn't damage anything and everything, and they gave me some let's call it margin of error regarding that one room with the ceiling tiles. And so the last thing was that there was still some garbage left that I had in bin bags that I had outside of the unit, and I said, all right, I'll collect those bin bags, but I'd like to hand over the keys today. They said, yeah, okay, sure. And so today I drove up with my bike and my bike cargo pickup thingy and the rucksack and the bag in front of me, and like I put one bin bag in front of me. There were like 4 bin bags in my backpack, one folded cardboard box in the thingy at the end of the bike. I don't know what it's called. And in the cargo trailer was like one big box of paper and one big box of general refuse. And Jesus Christ, then driving that, it's 5 kilometers up and then 5 kilometers back down. Jesus Christ, man, what a torture. But that means it's finally over. I never have to interact with those cunts again. And that is why I'm wearing a suit today. Because I want to celebrate that this is fucking over. Not the idea that I could have made an interesting product, that I still could, in theory, make. 1 second. Ah, fuck. I have notes cam. There. There we go. But the simple fact that I never have to work with these people again, never have to talk to that company or their representatives ever again. And so I basically celebrated today as if it was New Year's together with my family. I put on a suit because we always wear suits. I put on a cheese board, and invoked some really nice memories that I had back with my family. Had some sparkling wine because there actually used to be a New Year's tradition about sparkling wine, which sounds fairly normal, but in hindsight, maybe not that normal. I'll talk about that in a moment. We always have leftover cheese from Christmas and everything, so there's always a huge cheese and bread platter on New Year's Eve. What else did I do? Oh yeah, I watched Dinner for One. So Dinner for One is a fairly German tradition when it comes to New Year's Eve. It's a black and white comedy show from the BBC from 1960 something. And no one in the UK knows about it, but it's super popular in Germany. In Germany, it's what you watch on New Year's Eve. And then I watched the German remake of that, which is quite nice because a character breaks completely and it's super funny. And yeah, just to get a little bit of feeling back of, you know, celebrating with my family, because I do miss them. I do, to some extent, miss my sister, but I really miss my parents. And so, mentally celebrating with them. Oh, right, and having like a cheese board with blue cheese and spring onions is something I used to have together with them whenever we went on holiday in the UK or in Ireland. And so that all of that brought back some nice memories. And I guess when was that? 2 days ago, I played mahjong with the MK. I keep wanting to say MK Ultra Society, the MK Culture Society, right? So the Cantonese people, the Hong Kong people. So there's a Hong Kong society, and they also play mahjong, but they play the Cantonese mahjong, and they don't really play the Cantonese mahjong. They play the intersection of all mahjong versions that exist, whereas it's an absolute fucking free fall, which is a very fun way of playing. But yeah, I also like that's how I started playing mahjong, is with my family on holidays in Denmark. But yeah, so reliving some childhood memories. Well, not necessarily childhood memories, because it was the sparkling wine thing. Yeah, right. So, I don't remember when it started, but New Year's Eve I always celebrated at home in the village I grew up in. And at some point, I don't remember how it happened. I was wearing a suit, I think. And I grabbed the bottle of sparkling wine and went to my neighbor 5 houses down the road. And I said, "Hey, Happy New Year." That was before the Happy New Year. That was just how it works in Germany. And then we had some sparkling wine together. Me, him, his sister. And I said, "Hey, let's go to that other friend on the other side of the main road." And so he put on a suit. She put on a suit. And we went there. Said hi to him, to his family, with sparkling wine. Everyone wore suits. And we drank some more at their family's house. He put on a suit. And we said, hey, let's go to that guy. Who's at the completely other end of town. On the way there, let's pick up that other guy. And so we picked up that other guy and his brother. They put on suits. We took some more sparkling wine and went to the last guy's house. He put on a suit. We all were wearing suits. Drank some more sparkling wine, and then I said, hey, let's all go back to my place. We've got way more alcohol there. And so we all went back to my place. So all the way across the village. Now, we lived in a village with 1,000 people. So it was really just a 20-minute walk. But that's how that started, I think. And then I believe the correct German term is einkehren. So we found the place we would rest for the rest of the night. And by rest, I mean drink. And so... Oh, ha ha ha. The cat returns. Hi, Crow. Yeah. And so... where was I? Right. So we went to my place. I knew that we had plenty of more sparkling wine. And we, for some reason, thought it would be funny to just keep drinking sparkling wine for the rest of the night. And that, I cannot tell you when it started or when it ended. I remember we had a lot of fun. And I remember that my parents had bought so much sparkling wine and had enough in the wine cellar. So yes, we had a wine cellar. Yes, we had more than one wine cellar. Yeah. The very first time we did that, I had great fun. So did everyone else. But the very next morning, we all had the worst headaches of our nightmares. Of our lives. We all slowly started to communicate with each other. That was long before smartphones. We still had mobile phones, but we didn't have smartphones, right? And we all texted to each other like, I want to die. This is terrible. Oh my God. Let's have breakfast. Something. And then I think I had to go into town to pick someone up for something. And so I don't know. My mom drove me into town. And we drove along the main street. And in the main street, there was a phone booth on the right-hand side. And on the phone booth, on top of the phone booth. Now I want you to understand that those phone booths are like 2.5 meters tall. That means on top of the phone booth stood an empty bottle of sparkling wine. And Mama said, Daniel, was that you? I told her, it must have been us. I will take responsibility. But I don't even remember coming that way. That was... Now, to be fair, of course, on New Year's Eve, everyone is drinking bubbly, right? But, that's... Yeah. I was in full suffering mode. I was like, don't talk to me. Yes, it was us. Probably. That's all I remember from that. And that started a tradition of us drinking sparkling wine and collecting everyone in town, in the village, not in town. It wasn't a town. But we at some point had the intelligence to switch to other drinks, usually whiskey. Let me just go here. Oh, here. So the next day's headache wasn't that terrible. The years after, but but yeah. So wearing a suit and drinking sparkling wine at the on New Year's Eve was the tradition that we started and that I wanted to kind of relive. Also together with because because we had all of these snacks at home, right? Because I said, yeah, let's all come to my place and we have all this sparkling wine, but also we have all of those snacks, breads and cheeses and fish and everything, because we always have a lot of fish at the end of the year. And so, yeah, I made a platter with bread and cheese and fish. And I gave Crow some of the fish. Crow really liked some of the fish. Apologies. But yeah. So I kind of relived that tradition today. Channeled some of my childhood, well, not childhood memories, but like young adulthood memories with that. And therefore, I'm happy to close that chapter of my life, at least for now. At least close the Bishop Briggs chapter of my life. Not necessarily close the company chapter of my life, but or business owner chapter of my life. But this part is now over. So join me for a little glass and a toast to never working with horrible people ever again, and go live your dreams.